Welcome to Freedom Writers Community Book Club reading. Today is August the 12th. August the 15th, 2021. I am Shay Marie, Empress Shay Marie Bay, and I'm thankful to have you all here. Thank you all for being here today. Give me a few minutes. We're going to start reading chapter 4 of the New Beginning Study course. We're just going to basically briefly go over some of the things that we read last week, just talk about a little bit, see where you are, were you all able to, get anything done this week in regards to what we read. I hope you all had a great week this past week. This is the beginning of a new week, so welcome. Did anyone want to have anything to say, want to interject as far as just basically going over what we talked about last week, some of the information that we discussed in the book? We went over quite a lot. Guinea?
Mother Shay.
Yes.
I thought my book would have been here by now. It still hasn't come. It's gonna be here tomorrow, so I would probably have to catch up on the reading when it gets here tomorrow. I thought it would have been here Friday, but
That's okay. That's fine. I try to make the recordings available, so if you can't read the book, or if you don't have the book yet, you can basically go back to the recordings and listen to the recording. So you can do that. Also, whenever you're able to get the book, that's fine. Does anyone here have the book that will be able to read along with us? Like, do I have any volunteers that have the book that can actually be able to read a little bit? If not, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But we are going over the book, The New Beginning Study Course, Connect the Dots and See, David E. Robinson. I'm going to pull up. I wanted to. So basically, last week we went over some of the timelines from what was it? We went over the chronological events that happened from 450 to 1748. So we learned quite a few terms, such as commerce, what commerce is. The events basically helped us to kind of understand and understand, a lot about the idea of it is to get us to understand the history of basically how we got here as far as our government is concerned, and the history of past governments, and basically how we got to where we are today. So we're going to pick up on chapter 4. Chapter 4 goes over the chronological events from 1773 to 1980. So if no one is able to read along, I'm going to go ahead and start reading so we can get through a large majority of this book today and move forward. So chapter 4, it says, as the colonies gained, one second, get my writing right. As the colonies gained political and economic strength, they eventually demanded their full rights as Englishmen by issuing the Declaration of Independence from the King of England, which became a declaration of war. The colonists then confederated together as the United States of America and a confederated republic wherein the states were supreme. 1773, in May, the British renewed the Townshend Act that is about to expire and allows the British East India Tea company to sell direct to the American public without American middlemen and any middleman markup, thus angering the merchants of Boston and triggering the Boston Tea Party. On December 16th, 30 men disguised as Mohawk Indians dumped 342 chests of British tea into Boston Harbor. 1774, King George III and the British Parliament retaliate by passing the coercive acts called by the colonists in America, the Intolerable Acts. Also in 1774, in the summer, actual start of the Revolutionary War in Massachusetts, colonists prevents the British courts from functioning in their state and develop self-rule. 1774, the First Continental Congress assembles in Philadelphia. In 1775, April 18th, the British are repelled at Concord, Massachusetts, and are exiled to the Boston Peninsula. In 1776, May 1st, the Order of the Illuminati, a secret society of wealthy intellectuals, is founded by Dr. Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law at Ingolstadt University in Bavaria. After the headquarters of the Illuminati are raided by the Bavarian government, the Illuminati operate under the guise of the League of the Just. From the beginning, the Illuminati's purpose is to overthrow the Pope and civil governments and the King of Europe. In 1781, the First National Bank of the United States, the Bank of North America, is formed by an act of the Continental Congress that owns and controls it as a public institution in the public's name. In 1787, the Constitution for the United States is devised. In 1789, the Constitution for the United States is ratified by the colonial states. In 1791, the Assumption of Act allows the newly chartered Bank of the United States, more commonly known today as the First Bank of America, to assume private control of state chartered banks. In 1792, the Coinage Act, which has never been revoked, defines a dollar as a unit of weight of either silver or gold. Federal Reserve notes are not dollars, even though this is stated on their face. A Minnesota court case in 1969 said these Federal Reserve notes are not lawful money within the contemplation of the Constitution of the United States and are null and void. Further, the notes on their face are not redeemable in gold or silver coin, nor is there a fund set aside anywhere for the redemption of said notes. 1832, President Andrew Jackson vetoes renewal of the charter for the Second Bank of the United States. 2 subsequent assassination attempts on his life prove unsuccessful when the pistol aimed at him misfires both times. In 1871, the federal government reforms itself into a District of Columbia corporation called Washington, D.C., and adopts itself under its new constitution of not for the United States. So I just wanted to stop right there because I just want you all to know, and those listening to the recording who are not aware, that there are 2 constitutions. And so we have to be aware of that there is a constitution for the United States, which is the original Republic Constitution, which we are not under right now because we're under a democracy, under a false de facto government, which is the Constitution of the United States of America. So moving on, in 1873, there was a financial panic all the way up until 1907. This financial panic provoked by J.P. Morgan brings about a total change of the monetary system and private control of the central banks. In 1910, the basic plan of the Federal Reserve is drafted in a secret meeting at a private resort of J.P. Morgan on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. The seven men who attempted to represent an estimated 1/4 of the total wealth of the world. They are Nelson W. Eldridge, Republican whip in the Senate, chairman of the National Monetary Commission, father-in-law to J.D. Rockefeller; Henry P. Davison, senior partner of J.P. Morgan Company; Charles D. Norton, president of the First National Bank of New York; Piatt Andrew, Assistant Secretary of the United States Treasury; Frank A. Vanderlip, President of the National City Bank of New York, representing William Rockefeller; Benjamin Strong, head of J.P. Morgan Bankers Trust Company, later to become head of the Federal Reserve System; Paul M. Warburg, a partner in Kahn, Loeb and Company, representing the Rothschilds and Warburgs in Europe. 1912, April 5th at 2:03 a.m., the 46,328 ton RMS Titanic with 2,223 souls aboard sinks after contact with an iceberg in the North Atlantic. Only 700 or so managed to survive. More than 1,500 people die. Many of the ultra wealthy on board are opposed to the above plans to establish a central bank. So, two things. There's a book that we will probably more than likely in the future read called The Creature on Jekyll Island, that breaks down what actually happened back then when they came up with this plan that they had to take over the vast majority of the wealth back in 1910. And then, as you can see, the story about the Titanic was not what we were told it was about. It was about them basically trying to kill off those that were opposed to establishment of the central bank. So that's something that we need to know. 1913, April 8th, the 17th Amendment is ratified, passing power reserved to the states into the hands of a new form of federalism, placing the states of the Union in the position of mere supervised franchises of such government. This act sets the stage for the complete change of the federal government from a constitutionally guaranteed republic to a democracy. So this is the act that took us from a Republican form of government, you guys, where we the people were basically the ones in control. We held most of the wealth, and it took it from a Republican form of government to a democracy, and sets the stage for a hostile corporate takeover of the monetary system of the United States, placing it in private hands. 1913, in December 22nd and 23rd, the Federal Reserve Act creates the Federal Reserve System of district banks, a non-federal private for-profit corporation signed into law by Woodrow Wilson, regarding which years later he confesses, "I have unwittingly ruined my country." In 1915, May 7th, the USS Lusitania, an ocean liner with American passengers on board, is sunk by a German U-boat commanded by Captain Walter Schaeger. in the English Channel of the coast of Ireland. Right before this happened, the Lusitania, reportedly carrying over 6 million rounds of ammunition owned by the J.P. Morgan Company, stopped its traditional zigzag sailing pattern and cut its speed in half to await an escort vessel, the HMS Juno, which was to lead it to port. Unbeknownst to the Lusitania, and for reasons which have never been satisfactorily explained, the First Lord of the Admiralty, Winston Churchill, ordered the Juno to return to the port of Queenston, while the Lusitania sits alone and unreported in the English Channel, waiting for its arrival. One torpedo is fired, and within 18 minutes, 1,198 passengers, including 128 Americans, perished. It is speculated that Churchill deliberately placed the Lusitania in danger in order to draw America into the war. In 1917, April 16th, the United States officially declares a war on the Axis powers. One moment. Okay. In 1919, June 28th, the League of Nations is signed into existence without the participation of the United States until more than 20 years later, it is repackaged as the United Nations. In 1920, financial panic is engineered by the Fed, proving that it can manipulate the economies of nations at will without war. In 1921, the Shepard-Towner Maternity Act, known as the Maternity Act, creates the registration of birth records, or what we know now as the birth certificate. This legislation authorizes federal aid to states for maternity, child health, and welfare programs. However, the Supreme Court rules the act unconstitutional the following year, but the issuance of birth certificates remains. So the Supreme Court ruled against this act, basically being unconstitutional, but they still went forth with the issuance of birth certificates. So in 1921, June 29th, the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR, is formed because the United States refuses to join the League of Nations following World War I. An outgrowth of secret British society formed by Cecil Rhodes and backed by Rockefeller and Carnegie Foundation money, the CFR's agenda envisions nothing less than world domination and the establishment of a modern feudalist society controlled by themselves through the world's central banks. 1930, the Bretton Woods Agreement in which 16 nations declare bankruptcy. The Geneva Convention Treaty declares that international bankruptcy treaties are superior to all federal laws and the United States Constitution. In 1933, March 9th, President Roosevelt declares the bankruptcy of the United States by executive orders 603, 6073, 6102, 6111, and 6260 as codified as 12 USCA 95A. See Senate Report 93 through 549, pages 187 and 594. In 1938, the federal United States joins the International Criminal Police Commission, Interpol, designating the U.S. Attorney General as the official representative to the organization. The Secretary of the Treasury, designated by the U.S. Attorney General, becomes the representative to Interpol in 1958. Pursuant to Article 30 of the Constitution and General Regulations of Interpol, 22 USC 263, all representatives must renounce their allegiance to their respective countries and expatriate. In 1944, July, the Bretton Woods Monetary Conference at the Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, which through the guidance of Harry Dexter White, assassinate Secretary of the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, later known as a member of a communist espionage ring, and John Maynard Keynes, a well-known Fabian socialist from England, creates the IMF, World Bank, whose main role is the elimination of the gold exchange standard as the basis of currency valuation and the establishment of world socialism. White becomes the first executive director for the United States at the IMF World Bank. Over 100 additional nations declare bankruptcy at this time. The World Bank is the agent for the creditors' principles of the bankrupt federal United States and is not subject to American law. In 1946, the Administrative Procedures Act is instituted. In 1973, the Trilateral Commission, is created by David Rockefeller to coordinate North America, the United States, Mexico, and Canada, Japan, and Northwestern Europe into a new world order under slogans such as a free trade and environmental protection until a full-blown regional government emerges from this process. The so-called trade treaties within the European Union, i.e. the North American Free Trade Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which is called known as the GATT, G-A-T-T, have little to do with free trade. In 1980, the UNIDO Treaty, Treaty number 9719, is ratified by the Senate, which makes the United States Constitution subservient to the United Nations World Constitution, UNIDO, in the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. All right, so that was chapter 4. You guys, anyone have anything they wanted to say about that, about those timelines? Did anything stand out significantly to you that you didn't know? Or you may have thought it was something else?
I'm just amazed at how, detailed and intricate that they, how much detail they went into just to rob us of our wealth and our birthright.
That's
and
right.
how early they started. And it seems to me that even before America became independent, this was already set in place.
Yeah.
So now it's making me wonder, was the Tea Party really about, unless the Boston, was it really about that? I mean, that's what they write. But now I'm like,
No.
To me, it sounds like they planned on wanting what they were going to do to themselves, but then it almost like towards the later dates struck a deal because now everything from that point on went to the queen.
Right.
So I'm like, so that whole Tea Party thing to me, going by the timeline was for show, and it wasn't written in the book, told to us the way it was really written, because from that point on we still gave our money to England.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like what we were told wasn't true. What we were told in history wasn't true.
Yeah, everything we were told in history was a lie. I mean, a lot of these events that they just broke down basically tells us that um, you know, what we thought was happening was the total opposite of what they were really doing. And that's still happening even till like today. Right now as we're speaking, whatever's happening in the government and they're telling us it's going on in media, you really have to do some research, have some inside information to really know what's happening, or to use your own intuition based on the history, the true history that you do know now, to say, okay, something's not adding up, that's not really true, you know. So yeah, I definitely agree. We have to really pay attention to what's being said, um, when we're dealing and listening to the media or in the government and things like that. So did anyone have anything else? I'm sorry, Mother, you had something else you wanted to add?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, and like even when they were saying like the reason that from the Titanic, it's like
Mhm.
even that was a nice movie, but a lie.
Right, right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm like, is you know, and I kind of feel as though, especially with current events going on, a whole lot of disclosure is going to start happening, and I think people are going to be turned upside down on their heads because everything that we were taught in school for 12 years, was a lie, and I think a lot, and then we, go about our daily lives living out what we thought was the truth. And I think once it comes out that no, what you were taught was pretty much a lie. I think people's heads are going to start tilting because it's like that. I think they're not going to wanna, you know, um, believe it. They're not going to want to believe it, and you know, it's 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 crazy. It's all crazy.
It is. On a side note, this is not even. I'm not going to really go into detail, but we've all been hearing different stories about, some people not being who they really are. There may be clones and different things like this out here. You guys, I'm gonna tell you, it's so much. I've been really disturbed this past week, just seeing some of the stuff like in entertainment, some of these people that we thought were a certain gender that may not be that actual gender. It's a lot of things that have not been told to us. Um, and a lot of, like, especially like the music, especially in hip hop, um, man, they did a number to us, y'all. They've been really doing numbers, and I can't even say that some of these people that we believe to be our people, I don't think they are even real at this point. I believe they not even like necessarily real people. So we just gotta be careful and really like be tapped into our intuition, because it's crazy out here. I've just been hearing some stories, and some of it I don't want to like be naive and just believe everything that I'm seeing and reading, but just knowing what I know now is like, I don't know. I have no idea.
I
Well,
agree with you, Mother. It is so true. So true. You have to really tap into your intuition these days to even to have to be you have to be careful, when you're talking to people, because you don't know exactly whether they're real or not.
That's that's right. Yeah, so yeah, we gotta just be careful. And I just feel sorry. I feel we have a lot of work to do as far as for the future of these children.
Ye-
And keep
Yes.
being able to keep them on the straight and narrow. It's a lot of work. It's gonna really take us being in sound mind right now and getting our a lot of things, even in my household, have transpired over the week. It just let me see, like, I have a lot of work to do within myself, in order to be able to heal things that have transpired over the years in my own life and within my, my children's life and stuff like that. But, even to be able to go out and try to make other people's lives better. It starts at home first, but we have a lot of work to do. We can't be sleeping, like, we can't be sleeping at all. It's definitely hard and it can be depressing. But with these meditations and being able to heal ourselves from within, I think it'll really, really help. So I'm glad we're on the right path. So if no one else has anything to say, I'll continue reading.
Grand Rising says, what book is that? What's the title of that book, please?
We're reading New Beginning Study Course, Connect the Dots and See by David E. Robinson.
New Beginning, sorry.
New Beginning Study Course, Connect the Dots and See.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so I'm going to pick up on chapter 5. It says, that country must be destroyed. Prior to the American Revolution, commerce was done by barter and by paper money printed by the different states according to the production of goods and services by the people. The Times of London stated the following regarding the paper money and prosperity of America. If you can mute yourself, please mute yourself. If this mischievous financial policy, which has its origins in North America, shall become indurated down to a fixture, the government will furnish its own money without cost. It will pay off debts and be without debt. It will have all the money necessary to carry on its commerce. It will become prosperous without precedent in the history of the world. The brains and wealth of all the countries will go to North America. That country must be destroyed, or it will destroy every monarchy on the globe. Most people do not realize that the primary reason for the Revolutionary War was not taxation without representation, but the forced payment of taxes to the kings in gold instead of in America's paper money. America was flourishing by using its own fiat system based on production instead of a gold-based money system that could be manipulated and taxed by the king. The king could not control the fiat money system, so he passed a law requiring everyone to pay taxes to the crown only in gold. The king had most of the gold. The colonies had little scarcity, which equals value. Unemployment ensued and embittered souls cried out for secession. In one sense, America won the Revolutionary War with England, but the money powers were waiting at the gate from the very start. On the surface, the British Empire as a world government lost the American Revolution, but the power structure behind the empire did not. The most visible aspect of the power structure in America was the East India Company, owned by the bankers of the crown in England, London, this was a private enterprise whose flags had 13 red and white horizontal stripes with a blue rectangle in its upper left-hand corner. Betsy Ross had a pattern for her so-called creative invention of the stars and stripes, the flag of the international financiers. The true American flag was vertical stripes and a different design. While the British government lost the War of 1776, the owners of the East India Company, the banks, who made up most of the invisible sovereign power structure behind the British government, not only did not lose the war, but moved right into the new American economy, hand in hand with America's most powerful landowners of the day. Constitutional supremacy, the authority for the American Constitution. 6 documents became the basis and guidelines of our American Constitution. The Constitution must be based on some prior reference in order to be established. Any subsequent constitution based on this premise must have an enabling clause. No American Constitution established from this point on can diminish the rights already established in the 6 documents listed below. The Bible, the Magna Carta signed by King John in 1215, the Petition of Rights granted by King Charles I in 1628, the habeas corpus rights granted by King Charles in 1679, the English Bill of Rights granted by William and Mary in 1689, and the Articles of Confederation. Next, the people of the various states created the state government for the protection of their rights. They delegated certain powers via state constitutions to the 3 branches of government that were to carry out the constitutional dictate to protect those rights. Then the states created the United States. The American Constitution created a new structure of government that was established on a much different plane than the parliamentary system or that of the Confederation of States. It was a constitutional republic belonging to the states, wherein a limited amount of power was belonging to the federal government, with the remaining power delegated to the states or remaining with the people themselves. The Constitution was designed and supported by the bankers and pushed through to enforce their control over the United States of America. Had the Articles of Confederation been improved, instead of the Constitution being devised, the bankers would have had far less control than they achieved. 10 square miles. Columbia. Christopher Columbus, the United States, originated in 1775. Not the United States of America. And when it's saying not the United States of America, it has united with the lowercase u. So keep that in mind, because it's going to break down why it has that as the lowercase u. The Columba faction, an Italian organization and Masonic group, funded Cristoforo Colon and renamed him as Christopher Columbus circa 1492. I'll read that again. The Columba faction, which is an Italian organization and Masonic group, funded Cristoforo Colon and renamed him as Christopher Columbus. So what does that tell us, you all?
It's telling us even that's a lie, like what we know about Christopher Columbus, you know?
Christopher
I'm like,
Columbus is not a real person.
it's
It
not a
tells
real
us right here that it was an Italian organization and Masonic group. You know,
That's
we've been
crazy.
thinking that it's a real person. So it says the Columba faction's symbol was a black dove. The Illuminati, also an Italian organization and Masonic group, was formed in 1776. Both groups strictly adhere to their own hereditary bloodlines and purposely do not intermix with other ancestries. Isn't that something? The United States Inc. consists only of the 10 miles square of Washington, D.C. and its territories of Guam, Samoa, Mariana Islands, and Puerto Rico, etc. I'm going to say this again. The United States Incorporated, which is a corporation, not a country, consists only of the 10 miles square of Washington, D.C., and its territories of Guam, Samoa, Mariana Islands, and Puerto Rico, etc. Plenary power. One of the powers granted to the Congress in the federal constitution is in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16 and 17. 16, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may, by cession of particle states and acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority under all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and the needful buildings, and 17, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all the new powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. Congress has absolute or what is described as plenary power, police power, and the like. Where does Congress have such plenary power? Only within the geographical area of the District of Columbia and all forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and needful buildings within the several states. The corporate United States is an abstraction. The United States exists only on paper. It is a total fiction. It exists only as an idea, whereas the various states, republics of the Union exist in substance and reality. The United States takes on physical reality only after Congress activates 18 constitutionally delegated powers in accordance with Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is bifurcated. The Constitution is separated into two parts. It is separated from the original jurisdiction outlined in the Articles of Confederation. Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 16 and 17 set this out. The U.S. Congress has the right to make laws only regarding Washington, D.C. within its 10 square miles and the other territories owned by the United States, which we know are Guam, Samoa, Mariana Islands, and Puerto Rico. Okay, we read that. The limited scope of legislative power is its only lawful authority relative to the people of the various states. The first national bank in the United States, one of the first acts that President Washington did was to declare a national emergency. In 1781, Congress chartered the first national bank for a term of 20 years. To the same European bankers who were holding the Confederates' debts before the war. The bankers loaned worthless, unbacked, non-secured, printed money to each other to charter this first bank. While thousands of lives were being lost fighting a revolutionary war to get control of our money, why did our founding fathers, the Congress, contract with the same bankers that instigated the Revolutionary War in the first place? Simple, they had to. Under public international law, Congress, creditor, the Crown, forced the United States to establish a private bank to hold the securities as collateral for their loans. Since the Crown, House of the Rothschild, was the creditor of the constitutionally guaranteed loans, they demanded the establishment of a private bank to hold the securities of the United States as the assets pledged to the Crown in England to secure the debt on which the United States had defaulted. The default of the United States was planned. Throughout history, Babylon follows wherever we go. One moment, y'all.
Hello, Mother, are you there?
I'm here. Yes. I'm sorry, I just had to mute myself for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. European bankers expand. 1785, the youngest Rothschild, Nathan, expanded his wealth to 20,000 pounds in a 15-year period by using other people's money, an increase of 2,500%. 1787, Amschel Rothschild made his famous statement, "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws." Thomas Jefferson stated, "If the American people ever allow the previous banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and the corporations which grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." 1798, the five Rothschild brothers expand by opening banks in each of the major cities of Europe. Amschel Meyer was in Germany, Solomon was in Vienna, Jacob was in Paris, Nathan was in London, and Carl was in Naples. The War of 1812 and the Second National Bank. Marquis, a reprisal entitling one who has been wronged, who is unable to receive ordinary justice, to take the goods of the wrongdoer in satisfaction for the wrong. Black's Law, 7th edition, page 986. The charter for the first private United States bank was for 20 years until 1811. What happened in 1812? The War of 1812. What did England attack? England attacked Washington, D.C., the 10-mile square district where they burned the White House and other buildings and the government records of the 13th Amendment. Was England's attack on the district United States an act of war? No. The act of war under public international law was the district United States' refusal to renew the charter, the first national bank that held the securities on the unpaid debt that the United States Congress owed to the Crown. When the district United States committed this act of war, not paying its lawful creditor what it owed in a peaceful manner, the only remedy open to the creditor nation under international law was to come against the debtor nation, the United States, on letters of marque and seize the debtor's nation's assets to protect its loan. Did the Second National Bank get approved? Absolutely. Right after the war in 1816. When England attacked the United States because of its loan default, the Americans suffered the penalty of not renewing the charter of the National Bank. The charter for the Second National Bank of the United States was for another 20 years until 1836. This is wild. The forgotten 13th Amendment. Attorney, The attorney is obligated to the courts and the public. Wherever his duties to his client conflict with those he owes as an officer or of the court in the administration of justice, the former duties must yield to the latter. Corpus Juris Secundum 1980, Section 4. See note. All attorneys owe their allegiance first to the crown in England, the House of Rothschild, then to the courts, then to the public, and lastly to their clients. It is any wonder your attorney never wins a court for you in court, or wins a case for you in court. BAR, which is an acronym for the British Accreditation Regency. Attorneys are members of the bar. The American Bar Association is a branch of the Bar Council, the sole bar association in England. All laws in America today are the copyrighted property of a British company, the Crown. All state codes are private commercial British owned law. All attorneys follow instruction from England. Attorneys twist and turn, overturn their clients and cinch with the private law of the bankruptcy. That is their job. That is their pledge to those to whom they have pledged allegiance. By definition, the obligations and duties of attorneys extend to the court and the public, the government, before any mere client. Clients are wards of the court and therefore persons of unsound mind. So this is why we have to have attorneys, you guys, because we know no law. But because we know no law, we basically give ourselves over to the government. Because we're not in our proper standing, we hire attorneys who are not for us. They are for the people that they're basically for the crown. So attorneys are not for us, you guys. The original, I'm sorry.
And I think that actually goes back to what we're learning on Wednesday, like how to secure our own, homes and properties and stuff through a trust and keep it out of the court.
Right.
Because of that same reason. Because yeah, it's crazy. So basically what I just, what you just read is saying that even if we have a grievance against someone and we go into their court, we are going into foreign jurisdictions because everything that they do is, their loyalty to the crown first. So even if we have a grievance, it doesn't really make a difference.
Right.
Because, their first duty is, for the crown and then for the court and then, and then we're last.
Right. This is why they always get us to basically take a plea. It's never anything like all the way in our favor where we will get full due justice. Very seldomly you will see that. This is why a lot of the killings that have happened, like Trayvon Martin, Trayvon Martin, even with what's his name, George Floyd, their family are now seeking basically civil because they're suing now, because that's really the only justice that they're going to get is money. It's about money. So when they create, it's about them creating bonds and stuff like that. So because we are not in the private, we're in the public as wards of the state. I'm so keen on getting people to enter and understand the actuality of everything that we're going through right now, everything that we're facing in this country, in this world right now, is because we are not in our proper person. We do not own, sorry you guys, 1 second. We do not own our name or anything. We are actually wards of the state. And until we file these UCC ones and go and take over our name, put them on notice that we are now, claiming our true estate, because that's basically what it is, our claiming our true estate, which is our name. Our name is what gives us, well, basically what gave them the power to be able to do what they're doing, because we have bonds through our birth certificate that basically gave our mother signed us over as ownership to the state government through our birth certificate unknowingly. So we actually have to go and file this, and it is important. The reasons why we're going through the things that we're going through, because we don't know law, we don't know who we are. And at this point, we have to know this information if we are going to um, get any remedy. It's important because I was just seeing people don't understand that, everybody think that they're free, but we are truly wards of the state. There was a lady, there was a video going around. I don't know if anyone's seen this, a video that was been going around this week of a lady who apparently she supposed to have some type of prestige in her town. One of her children, her first children, got taken. I'm not sure the story exactly what happened. She had her child in the hospital the first time. So she kind of caught on to the fact that, okay, I had my child in the hospital. So the second child she decided to have at home. And the very people that she was saying that she was serving, she said she has the keys to the city and all of this. These, and they were actually white, butting their nose in people's in business. And she was, well, I shouldn't say white, they were Albion. And she was a Moor. She was crying to them. They were actually pulled her over and basically took her baby. And she was crying. Her husband had her in her arms. She's trying to plead to these people, and they didn't give a damn. But the reason that this is possible, you guys, is because they own us and we do not know this. So I just feel like it is our duty. We have this information. It is our duty at this point to make it known to all mothers, as many people as we possibly can. We got to wake these people up. We got to wake up the people, because if we don't, it's just going to be a lot of it's so much stuff going on, y'all. It's just crazy. And they feel like they have the power to do it, and they're really trying to beef it up. They're hurting. They're coming up with all type of things for them to be able to get money into their system. So it's a lot going on, even out here in Detroit, where we are. They're targeting certain people to try to get us to contract with them, because it's all about contracting. And if they can't contract, they're going to force you into contract, because we know no better. We know no laws. So it is important for us to get to the mothers and to really, really reach the hearts of these teenagers, because they walking around here scared out of their minds right now because of the police and being targeted. They don't know what to do, and they're becoming depressed. It's just bad, because they feel like every time they try to get ahead, it's things that are knocking them down. So it is our duty. We cannot be scared anymore, to the fact that, we can't just keep sitting back and letting stuff happen. We cannot. We have to let this information be known. And I hope I have some strong, powerful mothers on here that's with me and that's really, really ready to go to war for our children, for our future.
I think he has to come back in.
I'm back, everyone. I think I got knocked off by the internet. It's just so much going on, y'all. Our internet has been knocked off in the area, and Comcast has not fixed it in the last like 5 days yet. So I'm having limited connection. I'm connecting to this through my phone hotspot, so it went out. Um, so apologize. But I really, I don't know. What did you guys hear anything that I said? What was the last thing that you guys heard?
You
Oh, you
said
were
we
talking
have to
about
help
we need to get
mothers,
mothers to the young people.
young people, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm really strong about this. Like, we really gotta do more. We gotta put our minds and just mastermind plans. Each one of us are probably in different locations, different towns and things like that, but I feel like it's our rightful duty to make an impact and really try to help as many people as we possibly can, to know this information. We have this information, and you know, we can continue to come together and really get it down pat, to the point that we know what we have to do. And I'm pretty much already kind of knowing what has to take place. So I'm in the process of doing what I got to do for me and my children, and we're just gonna put this information out here and try to reach as many as we possibly can. If you guys want to come together and try to put together some type of pamphlet that we can formulate, to be able to pass out in our communities to people, so that we can start waking people up. Because you guys, I just feel like if we know this information, if we can free ourselves and we can free people, there should be no division. There shouldn't be all of this chaos that's going on in this world right now. I know out of chaos comes order. But we got to do better. It's just something that we got to do, because it's within me to really want to make a difference and try to save our children, most definitely. um it's gonna be hard, but we can come together and really like go forth and make this happen. It'll be amazing. um So what do you all think? I'm going to continue reading as well, but that just really, like, I had to let that out.
That's how I feel, Islam. Um, yeah, I strongly feel the way you feel too. Uh, I think we have to, because I know some of our family members don't want to hear anymore coming from us because they're just tired of what we're saying to them. But I think we should just be patient with them and find a way to just get the truth to them, even though they may say they don't want to hear about it. We shouldn't give up on them because we care.
That's right.
I mean, that's what I have decided to do with my family. I mean, I have a grown-up daughter, and many things, even though, yes, I have told her some of these things, but, you know, when they get into the system and they're making enough money, they're able to travel, they kind of feel, you know, everything is hunky-dory, but it's not.
Right.
You know, it's, you know, for me, I didn't get to find out, I mean, until when she was well into university. And so by that time, of course, you know, I was in the church, and then later on when I found out about the truth and I got myself together and pulled myself out of the, you know, Christian church, I continued to learn, and then I have tried to pass on the information, but she's not interested. I mean, with that said, I still feel that as a mother, it's my responsibility to make sure that she's protected from all this, all these things that is going on. And I just need to find a way to get the truth to her and for her to just listen. And yeah. And then the other day I was just walking and I got talking to this person, melanated man, and the conversation got to the vaccine, and he thought I was going to say to him, he needed to be vaccinated. And then when I told him he shouldn't, he was so happy. He said, oh my God. He said, I thought I was, you are going to tell me I need to be, get the jab. I said, no, don't take the jab. And because he said they've been trying to force him to take it, and because he doesn't like needles, he's tried to not take it. But he was thinking of going to take it because of the of them trying to tell him he's got to have it, he's got to have it. So when I told him that, there is a remedy, and he could tell them that he said, he could use the treaties, and I told him treaties to use, and he was very happy because he said now he can tell them, he can tell them that he's protected by these treaties. So like what you're saying, I'm just saying that I agree with what you're saying. And there's so much misinformation out there. And a lot of people don't really know that they have a remedy. And because of the fear of the media has put so much fear into people, they don't know what to do. They feel that if they don't do it, they won't be able to do anything. But when they have the information to use, they'll be able to help themselves and take themselves out of the government's jurisdiction.
Yes, I agree.
Good.
I definitely agree. Islam.
Oh, it's my mother. Also, it's what the mother was saying about, the universities and the colleges, and they do so much to like really twist the minds of our kids that when they come out, they it's like, they know it all. We don't know anything, what they say is right because, their professors taught them this. And then, when you try to say, but this is what's going on, then they go and, research it on mainstream media or, those other sites that want to hide things from them. And if they can't find it, then it's like, see, what you're saying is not true because I can't find it, or this is what this is saying. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm like, you're going to have to show you, and the proof is going to have to be in the pudding. And I think so once, and I hate to say it, but for some of our people, stuff has got to get real for them. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But stuff is going to have to get real for them. Until then, what we're saying to them is going over their heads. Not my son as much because I've been doing, the whole UCC thing for over 10 years, and I do have my skill from the state of New York. But, even with them, when he saw me, getting results, it would only hit the brick wall when it came to the realization that even then they could sit there and break their same laws that they have on the book, So even though I was saying, no, this is your law, you wrote it, it's on the book, this is, and I kept beating them with their own laws. But then they found, what's true, yes, the law, but, I'm not going to follow it. And what are you going to do? And that's where it's really important to come together as a people. That's where it's really important to, come together as a people, as a nation, get nationalized in the whole nine, because then you have backup. Then you can say, when they want to say to you, okay, what are you going to do? Then, then you have people backing you up. And now you can go forward and say, okay, well, now this is what I'm going to have to do, because you don't leave me any choice. And then you'll have backup, which is why it's so important, for people to get nationalized and,
Yeah.
so they would have that. Because believe me, had I known then what I know now, I would still have everything that I worked for, and it's still not a lost cause either, now that, um, getting nationalized and everything. Now it's not a lost cause, because now I can, go back and, claim, what they took. But it all goes along with what you're saying and what you're teaching. Um, because everything is commerce. Everything that they do is to gain money.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the important things that you said in the book, what you just read, was, the United States of America is a fictional corporation, but and it has it's fictitious. It's like a straw man. Whereas, it's the states of America. You know what I mean? The individual states, and each individual state, like the Republic of, New York, the Republic of Maryland. That's what, what you just read has substance,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think once we learn that, that we are the Republic of, we are, it's the people, it's the
That's right.
people, flesh and blood people, not fictitious straw man, i.e. United States of America, like you said, which is, foreign entity. Um, and I don't know if anybody's noticed it, but if you go on to Google Maps, and if you look at that area now, it no longer says Washington D.C.
Right. Yeah.
I don't
They actually became a actual state now.
know.
So they
Right.
they became a part of the 50 states. So you understand what I'm saying?
hmm Now I heard like something a little different, like they are no longer a part of us, because when the military went in and put up that fence, they went in because they recognized DC as a foreign territory, and basically they were saying, you are a foreign territory occupying a sovereign land, and so
Mm-hmm.
now we're gonna box you in and fence you in, and now we're gonna strip you of any and all of those titles of nobility that was talked about in Nessa.
Mm-hmm.
So, so basically, they had to strip them of that title and saying you're no longer a part of our district. So yeah, they're saying, well, now we're on our own separate state, and I'm like, yeah, but now y'all lights are still out. You still got no people roaming the streets, and like, what you really doing? Because I said, yeah, the lights are still off. Like if you go like to that woman Lois Lane, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, and 1600 was up for sale on Zillow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, they may be their own state, but it seemed like to me they were being stripped
Mm-hmm.
of any kind of anything, and now they want to run and say, "Oh no, we're a part of the
Right.
states, the states too." Oh, like
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 you're not. No,
Right.
no. So stuff is happening. Stuff is
Yeah.
happening. Hmm.
Most definitely. So if we can come together a little bit more and kind of formulate a plan to put together so we can start executing some action within our own homes and communities that will help us, that'll be great. One thing Mother did say was something about fear. and I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna put this web. You guys really should go check this website out. I know it's of the other people, but you can find a lot of information from these people because they know a lot more than we do. But then there was it was a webinar or something that of the sort, and I'm gonna find it. I can't find it at this moment, but there was a webinar that they did, just talking about fear and why we haven't necessarily like just the fear of even like taking action and putting these remedies in action. You know, because I kind of face that too, because I just want to. I'm a Virgo, so I want to like know that I know what I'm doing and make sure that when I do it the first time, especially since last year I had a couple of issues with one of the remedies that we did, the A4V. So I just want to. I'm that type of person. I want to make sure I know what I'm doing and it get done right the first time. So I'm really taking my precious time. But then there is just the fear of the unknown, not really knowing what to do, where to go. So really just need to just take a step and do it and get it done. So I mean, I think we're making a lot of progress in what we're doing here. So with that being said, I'm putting I put it in the inside the chat of the Telegram chat. I am putting the link to a video that talked about fear on this website. What is going on? For some reason I cannot type in this page. Okay.
Mother,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I think somebody just typed in that they wanted to know the treatment for. I'm sorry. Let me read that again. Um, just a second, okay, I'm sorry. I'm on my tablet. Treatment for the V. I'm afraid I missed the meeting plan and the remedy. So today, during my grow show and no, I went over the treatment, the remedy for the V.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be going over that again because I've gotten a lot of requests this week. I
Mm-hmm.
got some internally, some things you can do externally. And King Larry Day sent us an article this week from a doctor. And I'm so happy because everything that this doctor touched on, I touched on. And I've been telling everybody for like the last 5 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy that me and this doctor are on the same on the same page. And there was a couple of things I wanted to talk about last week, but I ran out of time. But those were the things I'm going to pick up this week. I'm also going to go over, I call it the NV nanobot inhibitor,
Mm-hmm.
and also chelation of how to, it doesn't make sense to, zap them. You got to get them out of your body. So I talk about that. So I'll be going over that again around 2 o'clock today. And a couple of other things. I did, some of the things that the doctor touched on, I also touched on, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many, like the class that I touched on, a lot of people weren't there. So I'll go over that again today, just to recap, and then, once I get that done, I can, um, you know, make sure everybody got what they need and certain things that I can show them. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want to know the treatment for that, um, I'll be talking to, the class around 2 o'clock about that.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it I'll definitely put that in the Telegram chat when we get off of here. The link to the class. Anyone who wants to attend Grow Show and Know by Mother Mia. Shayelle, you're more than welcome to join us this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And she has a lot of information on the health side for us. So yeah, you definitely want to be available for that. Thank you for that reminder, Mother. If nothing else, yep, I will put the link inside the Telegram chat as soon as we get off of here, Mother Jennifer. I'll get it off my email and put it in the chat for us. I'm going to go ahead and continue reading this last chapter, which is, it's only about a page longer. And then I'll probably not start a new chapter since we only got about 30 more minutes or less, you guys, before we may be able to get through this other chapter. It's only got one page left. So let me go ahead and continue reading, and we'll try to finish up one more chapter so we can at least get 3 chapters done. So it says the original 13th Amendment, one other important issue of the War of 1812. The original 13th Amendment prohibited esquire attorneys and anyone else who with a title of nobility to hold any public office in America. All the states had ratified the 13th Amendment by 1812, except for Virginia. The War of 1812 was waged mostly in Washington, D.C. The British burned all the repository buildings, attempting to destroy all the records of the new United States situated in Washington, D.C. The War of 1812 was partly waged to prevent the passage and enforcement of the original 13th Amendment. Many other book repositories throughout the states were burned to the ground and all records destroyed as well. As a result of the accumulated debt of waging the war and the bank manufactured depression in the midst of the war, a new bank charter was issued in 1816 for another 20 years until 1839. President Andrew Jackson refused to renew the second bank's charter in 1836. Jackson's reasoning was simple. The Constitution does not delegate authority for Congress to establish a national bank. Jackson's rationale has never been seriously challenged, and the Constitution has never been amended to authorize Congress to establish a national bank, nor for that matter does the Constitution delegate authority for the United States to establish corporations. No national bank was established in America thereafter until 1913, and the Federal Reserve Bank. Andrew Jackson did an excellent job on his watch. What did Congress do to Andrew Jackson? They fought him tooth and nail because Congress is made up of attorneys who owe their title of nobility to the crown in England. Congress is populated with attorneys who are esquire noblemen who owe their allegiance to the English crown. So who does our Congress represent? The international bankers. The bankers hired an assassin to kill Andrew Jackson using 2 pistols, but the plot failed when both pistols misfired. Andrew Jackson violated public international law in denying the creditor his just lien rights against the debtor. However, the bankers did not lien value substance, so they actually had an unperfected lien. Therefore, the law did not actually apply in this case, Andrew Jackson stated. Quote, controlling our currency, receiving our public money, and holding thousands of our citizens in dependence would be more formidable and dangerous than the military power of an enemy, end quote. Chapter 6, the Civil War and its aftermath. Sine means without day, with no day being assigned as for the resumption of a meeting or hearing. On March 27, 1861, The Southern states declared their states' rights pursuant to the Constitution and walked out of Congress. This created sign down, which literally means without day, with no day being assigned to reconvene. Congress adjourned without providing a date to reconvene. Abraham Lincoln had just been elected president, and Congress could not transact business without a quorum, so the constitutional republic was gone. Therefore, Lincoln declared martial law and ruled by executive order under the War's Power Clause instead. Martial law has arguably never been ended, and a constitutional facade has been maintained ever since then. Slavery was only window dressing for the Civil War. The war had nothing to do with slavery. It had to do with states' rights and the national debt to the bankers. The Southern states claimed their release from their debt to the Crown and as their right. To the Crown as was their right. The North wanted to continue its debt and its credit opportunities to the Crown. When the South walked out of Congress, this ended the public side of the bifurcated Constitution as far as the Republic was concerned. What remained was the private side of the government, the military democracy under the dictated rule of the bankers. The de facto 13th Amendment was enacted at the end of the Civil War, December 18th, 1865. The 14th Amendment was enacted 3 years later, on July 28th, 1868. And 2 years after that, on March 30th, 1870, the 15th Amendment. Commander-in-Chief Abraham Lincoln proclaimed his first open threat to the bankers when he said, quote, "The government should create, issue, and circulate all currency and credit needed to satisfy the spending power of the government and the buying power of consumers. The privilege of creating and issuing money is not only the supreme prerogative of government, but it is the government's greatest opportunity." Lincoln was assassinated a few weeks later because he defied the bankers by printing interest-free money to pay for the war. The new 13th Amendment freed the slaves from their previous owners, and the 14th Amendment subjugated the freed slaves to the 10-mile square radius jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. instead. The only people in the United States who had been under the jurisdiction of the private bifurcated government of the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. were the government employees within the territories owned by the United States Incorporated. So basically, it's saying that the only people within the 10-mile square radius of Washington, D.C., the employees of that corporation were the only people that the rules and the laws, or whatever you want to call them, affected. Those laws was not necessarily applied to us. Now the captive citizens of the South and the former slaves became 14th Amendment citizens of the United States. So when this happened, when they implemented the 14th Amendment, we became 14th Amendment citizens, meaning that we're a citizens or subject to the corporation of the United States. The rest of the people could still invoke their people power over government through original jurisdiction of the Republic side of the Constitution. The government operates now under the authority of private law, under the dictatorship of the creditor's bank. England incorporates the United States, 1871. The default loomed again at the end of the Civil War. The war against the southern states and the bankruptcy was imminent. So England incorporated the 10-mile square district United States. They used the US Constitution as the bylaws of the district United States, not as authority under the US Constitution, but as authority over the US Constitution. They copyrighted not only their new constitution, but also many names of the new corporation, such as the United States, all caps, the United States of America, all caps, U.S, U.S.A, and other titles as their own. So basically, like United States and all caps of America, those are all incorporated names, has nothing to do with the true government, you guys. This was the final blow to the original United States Constitution. Henceforth, the United States, Inc. was governed entirely by privately corporate law dictated by the creditors' banks. More bankruptcy reorganizations. 1909, the default loan looms once more. The US government asked the Crown in England for an extension of the time. This extension of time was granted for 20 years on several conditions. One of the conditions was that the United States allows the creditors to establish a third private national bank. In 1910, the basic plan for the Federal Reserve System was devised in a secret meeting on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia at the private resort of J.P. Morgan during the Thanksgiving holiday in November. It met for 10 days from November 23rd to December 3rd, 1910. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Bank Act, the 16th Amendment, income tax collection for the non-federal Federal Reserve, and the 17th Amendment, public election of senators, were the conditions for the 20-year extension of time on the loan default. The two amendments ended the state's power and rights as the United States adopted the Babylonian system of control. 1915, the ocean liner USS Lusitania with American passengers on board is sunk off the coast of Ireland, now seen to be a false flag event staged to bring the United States into the First World War. See 1915, page 36. Okay, yeah, we already read that. First World War, 1917, the United States is drafted into the First World War. The debt of the United States to the Crown accumulates so fast that it again becomes impossible for the federal United States to repay the debt in 1929. The war extends the war powers that Commander-in-Chief Abraham Lincoln put in place during his so-called presidency. Lincoln's War Powers Clause is explained into the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917, wherein citizens of the United States of America are declared to be the enemies of the corporate United States. So we enemies, y'all. The Great Depression, 1929. The stock market crashes and the Great Depression begins after the financial bubble of the Roaring '20s burst. The stock market crash removed billions of dollars from the people to the banks. This also removed cash from circulation for the people's use. Those who still held cash invested in high interest yielding treasury bonds driven even higher by increased demand. As a result, even more cash was removed from circulation of the general public to the point where there was not enough cash left in circulation to purchase the goods and services being produced. Production came to a halt as unsold inventory overcrowded the marketplace. There were more products on the market than there were available cash to buy them. Prices plummeted and industries plunged into bankruptcy, throwing millions of people out of work and out of cash. Foreclosures on homes, factories, businesses, and farms rose to the highest level in the history of the world. This is exactly what's happening right now, you guys. A mere dime was literally a blessing to many families now living on the streets. Millions of people lost everything they had to the bankers, keeping only the clothing on their backs. 1930, the international bankers in Europe declared many nations bankrupt, including the United States. 1933, Commander-in-Chief Franklin Roosevelt takes office and issues his executive order of March 5th, 1933, demanding that the United States of the that the citizens of the United States exchange all their gold for paper, Federal Reserve notes. So we, the people, obediently surrendered all of our gold. Why? Where were we United States citizens? No. Who were United States citizens, y'all?
Those within the 10-mile radius of Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. We were a sovereign people at that time. We just assumed that we were required to turn in our gold, whereas only the people living and working in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., and the new 14th Amendment citizens were required to do so. We were still sovereigns at that time. We were not under the jurisdiction of the United States that was incorporated in England in 1871. By turning in our gold, we unknowingly volunteered into the jurisdiction of the 10 square mile District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., its laws, and the 14th Amendment. The titles of our bodies, our birth certificates, were registered in the commercial registry. These titles to our bodies representing our property and future labor were mortgaged to the international bankers as security for the money the United States owed the bankruptcy under the authority of commercial title law. The American people themselves were not in bankruptcy, only the corporate United States, only the 10-mile square district called Washington, D.C., not the American people. Artificial entities. How do we become subjects of the artificial corporate United States? The U.S. corporation has no more power over you than does Federal Express, unless that is you have voluntarily contracted with the artificial entity called the United States in some way. Well, your mother unknowingly pledged her birth certificate to the state when you were born. It was entered into the commercial registry to register you as being within the United States. This transferred the title of your body to the state via a constructive contract trust. We became members of the Babylonian system called the District United States in every respect. Then the government created an artificial person, an artificial entity, straw man, to represent you and to keep you in your place. Then via an adhesion contract, the government made you a fiduciary and surety, a co-signer for your artificial entity and straw man to secure the national debt. By joining together in partnership with your straw man, you became a 14th Amendment citizen of the District United States. All licenses and other existing contracts are made between the United States or the state of so-and-so and your artificial entity straw man. This fictitious entity silently binds you to the United States because they made you the real woman or man, which you are, and they made you via an adhesion contract. So an adhesion contract is the birth certificate. A fiduciary, it made you a fiduciary responsible for the 14th Amendment citizen of the United States. So you are not a citizen of you, the man and woman that's breathing, that's on this live right now, or listening to this recording right now, you are not the 14th Amendment citizen. Your straw man is. And until you claim your straw man's name and claim ownership of it, you are basically, because you, through this adhesion contract, are saying that you are now a 14th Amendment citizen because you are under this contract. All this by presumption without your knowledge or consent, which is fraud. It's all fraud. All of the contracts that you have ever signed include your tacit agreement to uphold and obey the laws, rules, and regulations passed by the Congress of the District, United States, and the District of State so-and-so in which you reside. So if I live in Michigan, if I reside in Michigan, I am basically saying under contract that I will obey the laws, rules, and regulations passed by Congress of the District United States and of that state. So each state has its own laws and regulations and stuff. And these contracts may be enforced in the courts by law against you. Bankruptcy trustee takes possession of property. Hence, we can never own any property because the state holds title to it all. We only have a certificate of title to the motor vehicle we think we own, which certifies that its title is owned by the state. The state owns the true title to our homes and our cars and everything else that we thought or think we own. You married the state via your marriage license, and your children are wards of the state. You are a ward of the state too. All of this, including the fruits of your future labor, is pledged to the bankers as security against the unpayable national debt. All of this was given to the Secretary of State of each state, who is an agent of the trustee of the bankruptcy, named the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States Incorporated. 1935, our pledge was further confirmed when we applied for a Social Security number via a silent contract when the Social Security Act was signed into law in 1935. State loses sovereignty. States, you lose sovereignty. 1933, Commander-in-Chief Franklin Roosevelt calls all the governors into Washington, D.C. for a conference of governors. This governors conference is the beginning of the state's loss of what sovereignty they had retained. In 1944, with the Buck Act, the states become 14th Amendment citizens as well. This act ended the ability of the de facto states to protect the de jure states from being usurped by the corporate United States. The corporate states then went under the jurisdiction of the District of Columbia, United States, Washington, D.C. at that time. The march towards communism. This is another thing. I've been hearing a lot of people saying like we're headed into a communist country. We've been headed into this. We've been already in it for over 100 years. It's not no we headed, we have already been it. And this book tells us that. We've been under martial law for as long as we can. People think we're going under martial law. We really don't know what martial law is because we're already in martial law. We've been in it since 1861, I believe it was, 71. The march towards communism, 1946. The Bretton Woods Agreement creates the United States. 1964. 18 years later, the Uniform Commercial Code is adopted by all states, and a number of other like laws and acts are incorporated into this nation. The Uniform Commercial Code becomes the supreme law of the land of the United States of America. We lose our courts in 1976. 1976, Congress takes away all semblance of law or justice left within our court system. All law today is now constructed, and made up by the judge in his or her courtroom. Congress took away any control or authority we might have had over the court system. Senate Bill 94 to 204 deals with the court system. The Senate Bill 94 to 381 deals with the public law. This has been well hidden from us all. Many going into court often wonder why and how the courts can simply override the laws we put into our paperwork. It's quite simple now that we know how they do it. They construe and construct and make up what they want. A simple word such as in changed to at, as in at law or in law, has a totally different or separate meaning. For example, if you're in the river, you are wet, you can swim, etc. But if you are at the river, you might enjoy a refreshing picnic, play baseball, or run races. See the difference a simple word can a simple word change can make. So an attorney and attorneys often change this word when they answer your motions, and also many other words as well. It will pay you dividends to read the answers of attorneys to your paperwork. Compare what they say case law says to the actual case law itself. You'll discover that they have actually changed the words therein. Isn't this illegal? You might say, no, not according to the above Senate bills that permit them to construe and construct what they want. They can now construe and construct any law or statute to mean whatever they decide it means for their benefit, not yours. You don't know any of this. You think they are railroading you in a kangaroo court. No, they are legal in whatever they do. They follow the letter of the law to the letter of the law, their private law, the law of contracts that you know nothing about. Contract law. If you don't understand the above and realize what law you are dealing with when you go into court, you will lose. I got like 2 pages and I'm done, you guys. Contracts. Even if you have filed your UCC-1 security statement and have captured the title to your artificial entity strawman, it makes no difference in the above courts. Why? They operate in total fiction in the la-la land of Oz. They can only recognize contracts, whereas you are a real sentient being, but with numerous adhesion contracts adhered to you. Whatever you file in their court, whether it is your UCC-1 security statement or law from the judicial and original jurisdiction side that is lawful and true, this they cannot see. They can only see the fictions of contract law. So if you go into any court, be aware that there is a court of private law, and the judge and the prosecutor can construe and construct their law in any way they choose. It will always mean that they choose it to mean because you are a ward of the court. So are the courts bound to the Constitution by law, by statutes? No, contracts only, and the statutes that enforce contracts. And when we use their statutes, UCC rules and regulations, all copyrighted without a license to practice law obtained from the bar, we infringe on their copyrights, for which punishment of such infringement is mandatory. There is no common law in this nation. nor in the world. There is only contract law. Summary of Lesson 6. Throughout history, Babylon, commerce, and merchant law have followed us wherever we go. The bankers were waiting in the wings when we founded this country. The bankers threw us into bankruptcy only 2 years after the Constitution was enacted. The newly founded government moved into the 10 square mile district that Congress totally controls. In 1861, the Southern states walked out of Congress. This officially ended the lawful side of the Constitution. In 1871, the 10 square miles and the territories that Congress controlled were incorporated in England, and the Constitution was adopted as the corporation's bylaws. This ended the United States Constitution we think as of law today. We no longer have a constitution. We no longer have the protection of the original Constitution and the Bill of Rights, except as a masquerade to maintain the peace as the international bankers tighten their controls still more. The United States is a corporation incorporated by England in 1871 and is under the jurisdiction of England. This entitles England to create laws that the Bank of England and the international bankers dictate, and every 14th Amendment citizen is subject to obey those laws. This places the Congress of the United States above that portion of what we think of as the Constitution of these United States. Not under its authority, it is copyrighted, remember? The only federal constitution left at this time are these 4 amendments, the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th Amendments. These are all the judges are required to take cognizance of and recognize when you appear in their courts today. Then the merchants of Babylon, the bankers, moved deeper into our nation by establishing the Federal Reserve Bank in 1913 and its collection arm, the IRS, to collect the interest on the loans they make to provide currency for the for-profit corporation called the United States. The 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression that followed placed the American people in desperation, homelessness, poverty, and starvation. The minds of the people were focused on survival. They were trapped in a dilemma that forced them to accept any handout the government offered, no matter the cost to their freedoms. Franklin Delano Roosevelt treasonously placed this entire nation in socialism. We were drawn in as 14th Amendment citizens through the strict registration of our birth certificates. We were further enticed deeper into that system by volunteering for many other licenses and privileges offered by the government, and were made enemies of the United States. The 14th Amendment gives the United States authority over us as a captured people under the law of war to force anything on us they choose to create. Thereafter, we sank further into communism. This nation has fulfilled every plank of the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto with success. The United States is a communist nation. Now, get used to it. It may never go away. Then in 1976, Congress removed any semblance of justice in our court system with Senate Bills 94 201 and 94 381. From this point forward, the officers of the court construe and construct the laws to mean anything they choose them to mean. As 14th Amendment citizens, we are not citizens of the America we have always thought we knew. We are citizens of England through the corporate United States. There is no law today except a fiction of copyrighted regulations and statutes interpreted by judges who construe and construct their own private law. So that concludes chapter 6. And that concludes our reading for today, you guys. I hope this last chapter really resonates with you. Um, and I challenge everyone to take this. I'm gonna put the recording so you can listen to it again. If you have the book, read it. I'm gonna put the recording in the chat once it's finished downloading. And just listen to this again this week, you guys, and jot down some of your thoughts and feelings so that when we come together next week, you can kind of we can kind of come together and put our thoughts together on how this makes us feel and what the universe is telling you that we can do to get us out of this hellhole that we in, you guys. Was-
Mother, before we go, I just wanted to say, which is the reason why every sworn president of the United States take a trip to England
Mhm.
after they've been sworn in, because that just confirms that what you just read just confirms why they go to England and see the Queen to get their orders, marching orders.
Right, basically.
You know what though, and I'm just gonna say this as a caveat because to me it does, seems really bad, but I think it's like that documentary I was telling you about Mother's Day. Change is on the horizon.
It is. I believe it is.
Because I was looking at it, and I saw like a photo where Trump was in England and the Queen was walking behind him, and that's not protocol.
Right.
It's like, okay, who's the leader here? And he was walking with his head held high, and her face was like, okay, I gotta let him walk in front of me. So something happened because that is not protocol. And
It's not
and then all
protocol,
of
but can I say something behind that? Because I was reading, I don't think it
I
was,
heard. I also heard about that because go on.
I saw the photo and I was like,
we have
whoa,
to
but that's
understand that that stuff is for optics. And I was reading, I don't think it might be in this book and it might be in the other book that I'm reading behind this one by the same author, that kind of just repeating some of the same things and going into detail a little bit more. But what I'll have to find it and kind of read it to you guys to understand it. But to my understanding and inner and overstanding of what I read, we believe that the Queen of England, that woman that they showed on there, is the one who has powers over us. And but it's not, it's an organization that is known as the Crown. It is not her.
right.
So
Yeah,
that is
right.
all for optics to begin with.
Well,
They're playing with our minds, you guys. That had nothing to do with anything, if you ask me, because she's
well,
not even.
Because
we're
the
gonna
crown,
because
because the
then they
crown
had people
is
that was reporting from England, like especially last Christmas. They said, "Oh yeah, our CGI queen is going to be making an address tonight." And then I'm thinking, okay, why would they report that their queen is CGI? I mean, like if you wanted to at least keep up that pretense, you wouldn't say something like that. Like, so what's really going on? So I don't know, if it was for optics. I don't know, because right now, like I said, we've been lied to for so long. We don't know what's true and what's not, because as I see it, if the status quo is and has and always will be what it is,
Mhm.
why the optics? You know what I mean? So that's something to actually
We pay
consider.
attention to entertainment. They've been playing on the fact that we're gullible, don't know what's going on, so we only pay attention to entertainment. So that's what they give us. Everything is a movie, and that's what
Especially I actually saw like when Biden was given his he was given a press conference and then they zoomed in on his neck and it looked like his mask was coming up and then I'm like, okay, WTF, what's that? So my question would be, even though it's all entertainment, maybe it's out there for a reason and for a purpose. And also I would say ask questions. question everything, even if it's fake, since we've been fake since 18 something, 61, whatever, we've been fake for hundreds and hundreds of years. So why take something fake and make something fake now? Do you see what I'm saying? Like we was already fake. We was already under that rule. We were already there. So why now? Like what's changing now? So I like to ask questions because I see what I see, but I see what was and where we was. Because believe me, I've been doing this UCC thing for 10 years. And I'm like, but even in my spirit, I'm like, something is changing because it's just like what Mother read. Yeah, they start doing kabuki theater when it comes time for them to like look at their own laws and like what she was reading. Yeah, they basically, when you go into their jurisdiction, they don't see laws. They see contracts. They don't see you as a flesh and blood human being. They see you as a straw man and they act accordingly. That's how come they're able especially in my case, act like they didn't get paperwork, they didn't see it, they don't know about it, whatever. So my thing is, yes, there is a remedy, but also ask questions as to why, what's going on now, because 10 years I've been doing this, but now I'm like, okay, something's changed, something shifted, even though it's all for obstacles, why now with the obstacles? I mean, because they have us right where they want us. Why the obstacles now? You know what I mean? Because they're going to do what they want to do anyway, but why the shift now? Because they got us. So why the kabuki theater? You see what I mean? So just ask questions. That's all I'm saying. And I think it has a lot to do with us raising our vibrations as well, because I feel that when enough people want a thing to happen, it will happen. And and excuse me, there's more of us than there is of them. And if you have 7 billion people on the planet raising their vibrations, it's not good for those, I call them inorganic beings, who want to entrap us and turn us into a slave planet. There's more of us than there is of them. So
Right.
what is happening is raising our vibrations. Uh, uh, he can who thinks he can't. Like if our vibration raises and we want this to happen, make no mistake, it is going to happen because that's who we are. We are creators of this reality.
Yeah.
And again, I talked about this last week. We entered in the 5th dimension. Nothing is impossible. So even if they got to use illusion and optics to make it happen, so be it. So be it. Even if it's, this, fictional corporate government has been, deceiving us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
Question why the illusion is turning left or right or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a crack in the matrix. That's all I'm gonna say. I yield.
Indeed, I agree. Uh, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can hear.
Can hear you,
Okay.
Mother.
Okay. I definitely agree with everything you said. But everything basically has been an act. What they portray to us, there are just things going on behind the scenes that we know nothing of. They're telling us one thing on media, but they're doing something totally different, and it's all an act. I was listening to Janice, she's an historian. If you go on YouTube, you can just listen to some of the things that she's been kind of finding out, because she's doing a lot of the footwork. She's really out in the fields, really helping people to claim their land back and things of that nature. And she goes a lot, and I'm not saying everything that she says is right and exact, because she's kind of in disagreement with who we are as us being Moors. They're kind of still stuck on this Indian type of thing, which we all know that that's just misnomers and made up names that they still gave us to hide who we truly are. But she was breaking down a lot of stuff that happened like in the 1800s, as far as what were supposed to be wars, and they were just basically theater acts. These were, even though a lot of people died and stuff like that, behind all of these so-called wars, they were just basically theatrical events that took place because they were made up wars. Most of these wars that we know about were basically made up wars to create a certain outcome, to try to push their narrative the way that they wanted to push it. And we were just being told something totally different. So everything is not just all of a sudden being acted, it's just their hands are being shown. And so they're just going over and beyond right now at this moment to cover up what's really been happening. They've been covering that up as far as what's really been happening. They're working extra hard to do that, to try to keep their rulership that they're losing. Like Mother said, change is definitely coming and things are going to be great for us, but we have to still go through all of this turmoil that's happening right now because of all of what has transpired over the past couple of 100 years. We are definitely going to have to feel the effects of that because of our own ignorance and just not knowing. We know now what's going on, so we have a lot of catching up to do and a lot of learning to do. So we just got to be on our P's and Q's at this point and get this knowledge, get this information, and enact the things that we need to enact to make sure that we are free from this tyrannical government. So with that being said, I'm not going to hold you all any longer. I appreciate you all being here this morning, this grand rising with us. We had a great conversation, great reading. So I'm super satisfied. And like I said before, when I put the recording up, I ask that you all listen to it again. If you have the book, read it, get an inner understanding of it, and let's just do what we can to come together and try to put our minds together to get out of this situation. Although we can't just sit back and allow things to happen. We have to do something too, because that's our downfall has been sitting back and allowing things to happen for us and depending on others. So we can't let that be our downfall. We have to take action. We have to be involved in our everyday lives and the future of our children and stuff like that. So with that being said, I love you all. If anyone has anything they would like to add, you can go ahead and do so at this time. If not, let me know and I'll end the call. All right, well, with that being said,
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I love you all. I'll also post Mother Mia's Grow, Show, and Know in the Telegram chat. So make sure you guys are in the Telegram chat. And I'll see you all later at the Grow, Show, and Know.
All right. Thank you, Mother Shay.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Thank you, Mother Shay. Peace and
Love you all.
Blessing, peace
Peace.
and love.
Thank you.